Well, hello everyone. This is Thaddeus from PrimalHacker, where we teach you about biohacking. Today, I am going to run you through cold adaptation, why we would cold adapt in winter, what it's all about, and after this, we're going to get into exactly how to do it with videos showing you the exact way that we cold adapt for winter. Now, this is a presentation that I normally only give to people that attend our retreats in the winter. This is from last year's Fire and Ice, and well, it's actually, I guess it's still 2020, so we just did this in February, the very end of February. This is what you would get if you came in person. Not as many people can come to our retreats as would like to up in northern Minnesota. So we're going to run you through the exact presentation that you would get if you met us in person. Now, you're not going to get the expert instruction, of course, but let's just learn a little bit about why somebody would even cold adapt in the first place. This is a shot that you're seeing from the Point Retreats. This is the barrel sauna, and you see as the pine trees end, kind of going to the right of the barrel sauna. That's the lake that we cut the ice hole into. This was a shot that we took last year at the retreat. All right, so we're going to move forward here. And one of the things that we need to understand is humans have largely lost winter, biological winter. It might be winter outdoors, but for the majority of us, we live at 72 degrees Fahrenheit all the time. Between your car, your home, the gym, the store, your work, we never experience cold. You can see us here. This is us heading up to the retreat. This is a lake that we're standing on. This is Mille Lacs Lake in Minnesota. And you can see the clothes we're wearing. On the right is our good friend, Jade, from Australia. So he flew in from Australia, and here he is on a frozen lake, beginning the sequence of cold adaptation from 120 degrees where he was down to, it was close to zero here this day. And when winter comes, if we experience a winter, meaning we get cold, we eat the right diet, which we'll explain coming up, and we do the right things such as intermittent fasting and sleep, we're going to talk about all of that and what it means, then we can upgrade and optimize our biology. When we live at room temperature all year round, that is not the greatest thing that you can do for your biology. It actually can be very harmful. And that's what most people just don't realize. In the vein of trying to find constant comfort, we miss the optimization of our biology and potentially a much more healthful life. So in the winter, what happens? Well, you see right out the door that it gets cold. Now here's Jade again. This is at the retreat center. This was the very first thing we did in the sequence of cold adaptation, which we will describe later. But he's still wearing hat and mittens. But we're shoveling. This was actually 20 degrees below zero. I kid you not. This was 2 years ago. So this photo's from 2 years ago, from 2019, and 20 degrees below zero, and we're just out here getting cold. So in the winter, it gets cold, and the days are shorter. So this is sunset. So here we are standing on the frozen lake. This is Jesse and Louisa, our biohacking friends from Minnesota, up at the Point Retreats, and the days get much shorter. So here we are at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 4:30, and the sun is going down. That's what happens in the winter. And we want to learn how to make winter a little cozier. So of course everyone wants to be cozy and warm in the winter, so there's obviously opportunity for that. You do not need to be cold all the time. We're going to go through the sequence. This is just the introduction, but of course we want to make things cozy. We come indoors. When we're indoors, we want to make people happy and warm and comfortable. And again, this is the Point Retreats. This is one of our art sessions during our last retreat. So we want to celebrate winter. This is the time when most people, they head indoors, they start getting depressed, they complain that they're cold all the time, they don't want to go outside. Instead, let's flip that around and celebrate. So again, this was 2 years ago at the Point, and 20 degrees below zero. Here's everybody that joined us that year. I think we had 35 people 2 years ago. We had 50 people join us last year, which was almost too many. And we celebrated, and it was so much fun. This community we built. We went from taking people that have never gotten cold in their life to jumping in a frozen lake by the end of the weekend comfortably and enjoying it. And we'll show you at the end of our sequence of videos on cold adaptation. You will see the video that we filmed last year, well, this year, 2020, at the point in February, and just how much fun everybody was having out there. All right, so here we are. We're in winter. What are you going to do when the sun goes down earlier and it rises later? 100% you need to sleep more. This is my theory, and I believe in this 100%. We need to sleep. We have to sleep more in the winter. I am not a believer that everybody needs 8 hours of sleep every single night. I think that is complete BS. And I think what we do need is in the summer, when it's light, we're going to run around, we're going to party. If that's your thing, you're going to be staying up later, you're going to be doing work, and you're going to get less sleep in the summer. You're going to eat more carbohydrates and sugars in the summer. And in the winter, there's no light. It gets dark early. Go to sleep. Get your 8, 10, 12 hours of sleep in the winter to rejuvenate your body, to make up for the sleep you lost in the summer. I think it's seasonal and cyclic how we need to run our sleep schedule. I encourage everyone to sleep more in the winter. Light environment is critical. So if you know anything about what we do at PrimalHacker, we study light and human biology and how to make humans optimally healthy. You cannot be optimally healthy if you're not in the right light environment. When it is dark, when the sun sets, we are biologically programmed to avoid blue light because there's no blue light after sunset unless man makes it, which means our biology reads the darkness. It reads the absence of blue light. We have blue light detectors in our eye and on our skin. And when we read the absence of blue light for an hour, we begin producing a critical nighttime hormone, the hormone of darkness, called melatonin. You cannot do that if you don't see darkness. Now, red light and ultraviolet light, so on our foosball table here, this is our home, these are our red lights that we use. These are therapeutic lights, but we use them for our lighting at night because the body reads red light as darkness. So our body responds to light way, way, way more than most people even think about or appreciate. You can eat all the healthy food, take all the right supplements, exercise like crazy, and still not get well or optimal because you have not changed the most fundamental. Your environment, what is around you, your light environment. Once you fix that, you probably don't even need the supplements. You can miraculously heal just from the right light environment. And that leads to better sleep, of course. It is winter. It is time to cold adapt. This is the time. This is from this past year, 2020, building the ice hole. This was the ice hole we built, a nice big one this year, so we could get multiple people in at the same time. But you must cold adapt in the winter if you want optimal health. Your eye and your body read the light environment around you. You're absolutely processing that as information. Your body understands the information that the environment, that nature is providing. And when you do something opposite of what the information is telling your body, we lead to chaos. So this is the entire summary of my whole presentation and what cold adaptation is about. You need a break from eating carbohydrates. You need a break from the light, and winter provides the break. When we give up winter, though, and keep the lights on all the time, we heat everything up. We stay up late eating food that should never have been available in the winter. There's no carbohydrates available in the winter. Look out your window. If there's snow on the ground, you're not growing bananas outside. Your body knows that. It reads that environment. It reads the information coming from the light. And then it reads the information coming from the food that you put in it. You put in food that doesn't match the light environment, your body freaks out. And this photo kind of shows it all. We're wired on caffeine because we don't sleep enough. We eat the wrong foods at the wrong time of the year. We're stressed by the fast pace of modern life. Our world is filled with toxins, breaking us down, from glyphosate to EMF, to the junk overhead lighting, the microwaves from all the devices that we use, the fluoride in the water. We need to bring winter back, biological winter, and celebrate it. It's a time of renewal, of coming inside, hibernating, a time to be more spiritual, a time to go within yourself. So this is my theory, is stop eating carbohydrates in the winter. Diabetes is probably produced by eating too much sugars. And maybe that's a good thing in the summer because it starts putting the carbohydrates into fat cells. Then in the winter, we reverse that by eating no carbohydrates and burning that body fat that we stored to generate heat, only if we're getting cold, and fuel. When we avoid that, when we keep eating the carbohydrates, that's when diabetes becomes permanent. We start having issues. Again, my opinion. So if we add a bunch of carbohydrate food, if we add Allen, artificial light at night, we get rid of sleep. We're not sleeping enough. So we're eating too many carbs. We're seeing artificial light at night. We're not sleeping enough. That is complete metabolic chaos in the body. All right. Winter is a time of rejuvenation, respect, and work with the cycles on our planet and our biology. If we can do this effectively, we can rebuild ourselves every year instead of continuing to break ourselves down. So most of you know who I am. I'm Thaddeus Owen from PrimalHacker, and I founded PrimalHacker a number of years ago to teach people what I was learning about light, biology, and electromagnetic fields, and biohacking. PrimalHacker is really the acknowledgement that everybody wants to use all these crazy technical biohacks and supplements and all this to basically get back to baseline, to optimize our biology to the way it was before we started living indoor lives and creating all this chaos. So I went from having my own problems, my own anxiety and sleeplessness and insomnia, to curing that, solving it for myself, and now I am teaching others. I do a lot of self-experimentation. So this is a self-experiment that I ran a number of years ago, taking substances called SARMs, selective androgen receptor modulators. They almost act as steroids, but without the downside of a steroid in the body. And pine pollen is another thing that increases testosterone in the body. So I do a lot of self-experimentation before I teach. And this is just part of that experiment of, before and after photos of taking some of those SARMs products, where I was able to gain almost 16 pounds of muscle. And then I quantify that, not only subjectively with photos, but also with actual testing, with tech equipment that other people own and maintain, and I get to use to determine, did I actually gain size? Did I actually gain muscle mass in certain areas? Did I lose fat? So again, I solved my own anxiety where I could not get out in front of people and do any kind of speaking. It limited my career. It limited what I wanted to do with my life. I was able to solve that for myself. It took me until I was in my mid-30s before I figured this out. And I was able to use the biohacking techniques to become a public speaker, to start this business, to change my career even. And I gave a TED Talk on some of the things that I learned that helped me out so much. I could never have got up in front of that audience in the past without having solved some of this for myself. Now, this is us at our Florida mastermind. This is critical in the winter. So when it becomes winter, we lose out on the vitamin D producing capability of the sun in a northern climate. We can be outside naked all day long and never produce vitamin D from the sun. Vitamin D being so critical in the winter, we must have it in order to be optimally healthy. And we can't get it in a northern climate. We can eat all the vitamin D we want. I do not believe that gets you the vitamin D into your body when you're taking a pill or eating it as a supplement. I just don't think that works well. I think you need to get it from the sun. So we take a break every winter, and we head down to Florida to soak up the sun. This is us barefoot grounding on the beach. It was kind of cold this day, as you can see, early morning, but we're getting free electrons by grounding on the earth. We're getting our sunlight, and we're building that vitamin D once the sun starts getting ultraviolet B into it a little bit later in the morning. There's some magical time at sunrise, but light, water, and magnetism. We respect nature. We bring back this ancestral wisdom by getting out at sunrise and syncing our body to the light and dark cycles of the earth. This is called circadian rhythm or circadian biology. So, my background is chemical engineering. I studied chemical engineering, but then I went out and got a master's in holistic nutrition. I spent 10 years working in pharmaceuticals, building these things that are probably not the greatest things for people to put into their body. I went out and got a personal training certification, did a bulletproof coach training certification. I'm just absolutely passionate about all of this, and I found my way out of the pharmaceutical world into a world where I can help others. So again, every February we go down to Florida and we do this mastermind. All right, so here's a little story. If you look at every other plant and animal on Earth, our biology is actually designed to do very specific things. When we ignore those things, it can cause suffering and chaos in the body. So most animals have winter strategies, adaptation strategies. They migrate to get out of the winter and continue to soak up vitamin D and find available food. They hibernate. They slow down their metabolism. They build fat to live off all winter. Fat actually provides water when it breaks down and energy. And so you can live off that fat for quite a long time, which animals have adapted these strategies. Or they have other adaptation strategies that they use. Humans have the same thing. We have these ancient cold pathways that we can open up and utilize. And we're completely missing that because we never get cold. Now, most of all of our human history, we did celebrate winter. There were different things that we did in winter versus the summer. We are literally biologically designed to make that happen. Just like mice and rats are nocturnal animals. They're not biologically designed to be awake during the day and asleep at night. They're the opposite. Humans the same way. You may think you're a night owl, but biologically you're designed to be awake during the day and asleep at night. And when you go against that, and when you give up things like winter that are designed into us to occur, we create problems. This is London. I don't think this actually happens anymore. This is the Thames River, where they have these frost fairs every single year. I think it doesn't get cold enough anymore based on just some shifts in our world. But they would celebrate winter every year. We had these huge celebrations rather than just grumbling and complaining. Now, part of cold adaptation is obviously getting cold. And one of the ways that we do that is we go and use nature. Now, what used to happen is when white settlers, if you believe history, would either run away and go join the tribes or be captured by the Indian tribes living here in the 1700s, whenever this was. And they would need to adapt because they didn't want to, whether they were captured or ran away, they didn't want to rejoin the white settlers. They wanted to stay with the tribal people for whatever reason. That's what we're told. And the way that they did that, the way that they adapted to live with these peoples is by getting in cold water. So the story goes, this is what I've been told since I was a kid. So I have Native American background and I lived on the East Coast, and I was always told this, that the natives would help the kids, the children, cold adapt by putting them in a frozen river and having them stay in that freezing cold water for 2 smokes of their pipe. And they would begin then the process of cold adaptation so they could survive with the tribes without constant heat in these buildings. And that's what we do when we take advantage of the parts of our biology that are able to adapt to the cold. Now, why would we do that? You know, we do that because most people they don't enjoy the cold. They're just complaining and cold. And guess what? Once you cold adapt over a period of about 2 weeks, yes, it's a little uncomfortable, but then you have 40% less of a reaction to cold. You feel warmer all the time. You can walk in a t-shirt at 10 degrees below zero from your car to the store, and you'll be just fine. You'll be relaxed. You will not be stressed. So I think it's very important. Now, what happened way back when is that people they were outside more often anyway. And so this is, 1910. Most people were living in a rural area. You can see the picture on the left is all the modes of transportation at the time. So look at every one of those modes of transport. Between the cars, the horses, the walking, the bikes, and the buses, they're all open air. Everyone is outdoors, summer and winter. Now, our current genetic makeup, our biology, it was designed before we had the ability to bring heat and light indoors. So that means we have specific things built into our biology that we can take advantage of to be optimally healthy, and when we ignore, we create chaos. And the thing that most people don't understand is invisible signals are what cue our biology to produce hormones. We know that light actually runs your metabolism, not the food that you eat, your mental state, and the light information that enters your eye and your body is what completely run every biochemical reaction. Animals, they don't reproduce in winter. Neither do plants. They get signals from the environment that it's not time to do that. We get those same signals, but we ignore them to our detriment. So, of course, we are these electrical beings. We are light beings. We are frequency. We are energy. This is all just at its base information that we decode in our body. And when we decode information and do something the opposite of what the information is telling us, again, bad things can happen. Now we can look at all the science of this between dark and light cycles and the biochemistry of what it's signaling to our body and how different hormones are then produced, but they're produced in our body via light, not food, not movement. Now, of course, those things can produce changes, but light actually runs the system. So the light that enters our eye, or the darkness that enters our eye, lack of light, is what stimulates the brain to produce things like melatonin, to produce serotonin, to program amino acids in our body like tryptophan and tyrosine and turn them into hormones later in the day. That's actually how this works. So at its core, really, light controls all biological processes, including metabolism, including hormones. Light and magnetism run our biological software. They influence the HPA axis. This is the hypothalamus, pituitary, and that axis is what most people have on overdrive that causes them to be stressed all the time. The hypothalamus is actually a timekeeper. There is a clock, literally a clock, in every cell of our body, every cell, and it is set by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain. That's that SCN you see here, and that's set via the light that enters the eye. That sets the clock in every cell. When the clocks in every cell are running in sync, everything's good. When they are out of sync, that means a circadian mismatch. That's bad. That causes chaos in the body. The pituitary actually controls our sex hormones. So what times of the year we should be reproducing as humans, when to mate. We're not supposed to have babies in the winter because there wasn't enough food and people were sleeping all the time. They were hibernating. And then, of course, the adrenal part of the HPA axis is our stress meter. So winter, we should have less stress. There's less light. There's more time to heal and repair because we're sleeping and we're not outside constantly gathering and building and repairing and having sex. So melatonin needs to go way up. Sex steroids would go way down. This is based on the light environment, and this is how the body then reverses damage that happens in the summer, heals itself, and we are always missing out on that. Of course, today, this is why. Because we live over 90% of our time indoors. And we think about in the winter, if you live in a northern climate, you go from your home to your garage, to your car, to your work. Based on how the world used to be, you would go to work. Now you probably just stay home all the time. And how often during the day are you ever outside? Maybe 2 or 3 minutes a day outside in the winter. That is not enough time to adapt to the changing climate because we turn on these overhead lights telling our body that it's constantly noon on the equator in the middle of summer all the time. We're also poisoning ourselves. So we've added a neurotoxin to our body every day, multiple times a day, by drinking. It's called fluoride. And even today, this is October 2020, the EPA is finally admitting that fluoride is a neurotoxin and we need to reduce the amount in water. Obviously, we ought to just remove it completely from water, but people are drinking this and you don't think, oh, well, I drink well water. Well, are you drinking bottled water or canned water? Are you drinking Gatorade or 7-Up or whatever it is? Are you eating food from the grocery store? That probably has tap water in it at some point with fluoride in it. We're bringing microwaves into our homes and irradiating ourselves. Your Wi-Fi router, your Bluetooth, your cell phones, all of that in your home, irradiating yourself 24 hours a day with microwaves that your body was never designed to deal with. We voluntarily allow ourselves to be tracked and traced everywhere all the time. By bringing that little phone with you everywhere you go, you are constantly being tracked and monitored. We have toxic junk lighting over our heads. That junk lighting signals to our body that it's, again, the middle of summer on the equator all the time, and our hormones get completely whacked out. We've, of course, got chemtrails in our skies. Depending on where you live, some of those have disappeared recently. But here, there's some days when I've seen literally what looks like this photo overhead. About last week is when I saw something that looked like that. I've never seen anything like that bad in my life. And other days, we get none now. It's kind of up and down with this whole world situation we're in, we've put glyphosate in pretty much all of our food. And we know that that causes huge problems in the body. Basically, like kryptonite has been sprinkled everywhere. We're constantly being weakened. We basically need to upgrade our biology because of all this. Of course, for all of human history, for all of natural history, this is what light looked like. But today, we live under this alien sky, and we've created this light that allows us to see, but we never created it to work with our biology. We turned this dark time of sleep and repair into the middle of the day so we can be awake at all times and do things. If you think about every key piece of technology we use today, it is all designed to make us more productive humans, making money for others who own the systems that we use. None of this light makes us healthier. None of these convenience devices make us healthier. They actually give us excuses to work longer and destroy our biology. Now, this is what all of human history, all humans would have seen at night. This is the light that we would have been exposed to. And this is what we probably would have been doing. December 21st, winter solstice, 7 o'clock, 3 hours after the sun would have set. We would have been sleeping. Today, that is absolutely not the case. Now, it might not look like this today, because some people have shown me some photos. This is like empty. It's almost like a ghost town at the moment. But I think that will change at some point, and at least up until April or March of this year. This is what New York City looked like in the middle of winter. The city that never sleeps. We completely have gotten rid of winter biologically, from a light environment, from heat, everything. That is harming us. Perpetual summer is what our body reads when it reads the light environment in our homes instead of outside, and when we eat carbohydrates, tropical fruits that never would have been available forever. That does accelerate our aging processes. We've lost connection with the earth around us, not just the light and dark cycles. Look at what people are wearing on their feet. Rubber-soled shoes, insulating. They don't allow electrons to pass out or into the body. Look at what they're doing with their heads. Everyone's looking down at their phones, right? They're connected to this technology that's putting inflammation through microwave radiation into their body, and they're not allowing themselves to get rid of that inflammation by connecting with the electrons in the earth by being barefoot. Even if they were barefoot here, they would not be connecting with the earth because the surface that they're walking on is also not conductive. We need to get back to using these free electrons from the earth, which reduce inflammation, which give us free energy. Literally, energy at its baseline is electrons. It doesn't matter if you eat fat, carbohydrates, or protein. They are broken down into electrons that are sent through the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. Electrons create energy. So if you can soak up free electrons from the earth, you probably need to eat less food because you're getting the free electrons. We also know that there's a resonance, an earth resonance called the Schumann resonance that our brains are entrained to. We kind of ignore that Schumann resonance because we've got all this microwave radiation pounding into our brains every single second of every single day, including when we sleep, and we tune into that signal, which is not biologically compatible. This is how much microwave radiation exposure has increased since about 1950s. This is a quintillion. We have a quintillion times more radiation hitting us every second. And man was never designed to protect ourselves from microwave radiation because there just wasn't that much around ever. There's a bunch of sun. The sun's always been around. We protect ourselves from the sun. We create melanin. We create tan. We make vitamin D from it. When we've had too much, our skin tells us. We don't have that ability to protect ourselves from microwave radiation. And this is actually from David Carpenter of Albany School of Public Health. He has claimed, in addition of the Lancet, December 2018, that electromagnetic radiation has increased by 1 quintillion times in the last decade and poses a great danger to all life on Earth. So there's evidence. You can go to bioinitiative.org. You can look up the 5,500 peer-reviewed published papers showing that wireless radiation causes massive biological effects. That's wireless technology, cell phones, Wi-Fi, wireless, smart utility meters, cell phone towers, Bluetooth. Nothing has changed in our way of life in the past 35 years as drastically as the adoption of wireless technology. The safety guidelines that are created for our country are just laughable. Look at the safety guidelines for Russia or China. China's microwave radiation limits are 1,000 times lower than the US. Do they know something that we don't? That just seems crazy to me. In addition, there was a $25 million study that took 14 years that the US government hired the best experts in the world to determine whether cell phones were safe. And at the end of that study, they definitively showed that cell phones cause cancer. There is no question. You can look that study up. Just Google NTP cell phone study. It's on the government website. Totally legit. There's no better study of whether something causes cancer. Okay. The only medication that we force everybody to take because we put it in water is fluoride. Yes, fluoride is a prescription product, a medication. It affects your thyroid. It affects lots of things in your body. It calcifies your pineal gland. There's no question about that. There's plenty of research, scientific evidence, published papers from U.S. universities showing that. And we put it in our water every single day. Why are we allowing ourselves to continue to be medicated and poisoned? We used to sit around the fire and tell stories. Fire is red and infrared light. Now we have to pay thousands of dollars to buy a red and infrared light device to heal us because we're doing this to ourselves. We're programming our minds. Why is television called programming? Television. They are telling you what to think. They're creating a story in your mind for you. They're programming you with different waves, with different ideas, seeds of thoughts, and they're bathing you in this blue light. Blue light is toxic in large quantities and at the wrong time of the day. Totally fine in the sun when you're outside. But put it in isolation, after sunset especially, bathe yourselves in it, along with the hypnotic state that television is creating, and you create free radicals in the eyes. You destroy your melatonin, which is the body's master anti-cancer compound, and then you allow your mind to be hypnotized and seeded with thoughts that somebody else has designed for you. We get together and we socialize as humans. But today, this is kind of what it looks like, and this is creating huge problems. Now, the sun's invisible rays. They do so many beautiful things for us. They increase nitric oxide. That decreases blood pressure. We increase vitamin D in our skin. The more vitamin D we have, which is fat soluble, the more we are protected from diseases of almost every type. And because it's storable, we can create 25 to 40,000 international units of vitamin D in our blood, stored in our fat, in one sunlight session. One. How many IUs of vitamin D are in a vitamin D pill that you take? 400. 400 in a pill, 25 to 50,000 from the sun, and it's safe. If you ate that much in a vitamin D pill, you might be in big trouble and end up in the hospital. Our body knows what to do with the sunlight. Sunlight also increases insulin sensitivity. It decreases mortality, death from all causes. The more sunlight you have, the less you die of any disease or any cause. Isn't that interesting? The less obesity people have. What other things can invisible energy from the sun do? It's known to lower blood pressure. We think that's because it increases nitric oxide in the skin by widening the blood vessels when that nitric oxide is released. The sun has never been thought to be a way to lower blood pressure, but would you rather take a pill or just get outside? There's so many things that we can do once we start using nature. Now, when we start coming indoors, like we do in the winter, we cannot mimic sunlight. So the photo from the very back, 4.6 billion years, is the sun. That's the sun at one time of the day. The sunlight changes throughout the day, the intensity. And I'll show you a little bit of that. Indoor lighting never changes, and it does not look anything like sunlight. We can't mimic that, and that causes problems. So, we still don't even realize ultraviolet light within the sun has other frequencies with it. It naturally make it a stimulus for our cells, our body. We read that UV light, we can heal from that light. But when we separate those out and just use these specific frequencies like blue and green in an artificial light source, we start having major, major problems. So again, these are the different types of bulbs you can use. Some look a little bit more like sunlight than others, and I do think that those are safer bulbs to use in the winter when it gets dark. Incandescent, halogen. They cost more money to run, but they are safer bulbs to use. Look at the amount of blue light that's in those. It's not that much when you come indoors compared to an LED or a fluorescent. those are just super toxic and damaging. This just shows what the death rate looks like. More people die in the winter than any other season. Of course, it's reversed in the southern hemisphere because their summer and winter is reversed from ours, so they have higher death rates in their winter. We have higher death rates in our winter. I think that's because we come indoors and we ignore all the different things that we need to be doing in winter. This is a paper from actually a book from 1979 from Holowich, who's a researcher and a doctor, and he found that light runs metabolism in the body. This is something that people still haven't figured out. But it was published way back then, so we just need to look at the literature. All right, so what do you do? Well, let's talk about that. Sleeping and fasting. Winter is the time to do your intermittent fasting because you tap your own stored fat for fuel. That also means you can produce more heat, more energy, and more metabolic water when you burn fat versus burning carbohydrates. So I think that's the time to take advantage of fasting. And when we sleep, we repair and rejuvenate. We need to sleep more in the winter. Get your light environment right. So these are blue light blocking glasses. The ones in the very back look like safety glasses. They cost about $1 on Amazon. Try wearing blue light blocking glasses when the sun sets and before the sun rises. Never allow your eye to see blue light. These filter the blue light out from ever hitting your eye, regardless of what the light is in your environment. This can make you sleepy when it's time to go to bed. It keeps your melatonin around, that master anti-cancer, that antioxidant hormone that is produced when our body sees dark. It sees no blue light. If we are seeing light, even for 15 seconds after sunset, our melatonin can be destroyed for up to 4 hours. That's half your nightly melatonin completely destroyed just by seeing a little bit of light. Put on a pair of blue light blocking glasses. They're really inexpensive, and it can make a huge difference to your health. This is kind of color temperatures in Kelvin. These are LED lighting color temperatures, and what you're looking for if you actually do install LED lights is either a red light, which I'll show you in a little bit, if you can do it, or if you've got to buy a regular LED light to get the lowest color temperature. Most people are using 5,000 to 7,000 Kelvin lights. Those are tons and tons and tons of blue light that's massively affecting your health. The lower the color temperature, I like to use LEDs between 1,000 and 2,000 Kelvin. Very little blue light in those. The other thing you can do is put on screen filters on your devices. So you can see all the blue light coming out of the phone on the left versus the phone on the right that's been color shifted to red, and there's almost no blue light coming out of that. So put on some filters. You can do it for Android, you can do it for the iPhone, you can do it on all your devices, even your laptops, to use these screen filters after sunset. This is our hallway, and you can see that we only use red light at night. So I'm coming into the downstairs where you see more red light. We don't have lights that aren't red after sunset. We want to ensure that our body is entrained to the light and dark cycles of the earth for optimal health at all times of the year. I do believe that ketogenic dieting in the winter is critical. We wouldn't have had carbohydrates available in the winter, so I personally follow a diet that is high fat, moderate protein, and very, very little carbohydrates, almost no carbohydrates in the winter, so that my body is burning fat for fuel. This has massive benefits of all kinds, from mental to physical to hormonal to weight loss, everything in between. Personally, I don't follow a ketogenic diet all year round. I do not follow it in the summer, but I do follow it. This is the way I do it. I start storing fat in the fall. I can eat all the carbohydrates and sugar I want, all of them, as much as I want in the summer, and I never gain weight. In fact, I did an experiment this summer, and I'm happy to show you my results because I did a scan every week to see if I was gaining fat or losing fat. And no matter how much sugar I ate, because I'm outside all the time in the summer, that's the key, I would not store that as fat. Now that it's fall and the light levels are declining, your body wants to store fat if you're eating carbohydrates. So I am continuing to eat some sugar, some honey, and carbohydrates. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash that are local, I'm getting them from the CSA. I am eating those all fall. Right now it's October, so September, October, November. I just did my body check this week and I gained 1.5% body fat from where I was. That's what I'm trying to do personally right now. I gained weight. So I gained some fat, I gained some weight. I'm going to continue to do that personally until December 20th. That's winter solstice. I'm going to continue eating these carbohydrates, these stored sugars in locally available foods, and I will gain some fat. Then on December 21st, I start intermittent fasting. I do a 24-hour fast once a week. I do about a 15 to 18-hour fast every single day. And I will stop eating carbohydrates. And I will just eat fats and proteins and some vegetables. So I'm getting some carbohydrates from the vegetables, but I'm not eating a lot of vegetables because there's not a lot available in this part of the world. And I will start burning all that body fat so that when I get into spring, I will almost certainly, just like last year, I've been doing this for 2.5 years now. Last year I walked into spring at 5 to 6% body fat. So right now I'll tell you I'm at about 9% body fat. I'm hoping to get to 10 or 11% before December. And then by spring, I will have burned all of that. To go into summer, if you're looking for a summer beach body, I'll go in with 5 or 6% body fat because I burned all that fat all winter long by using these cold adaptation strategies. That's the way I do this. I don't recommend a way of living to anyone else. What I do is show you, based on what I know and what I understand about the science and my self-experimentation, what has worked well for me and what my opinion is. And part of that is eating as seasonally and locally as possible. Your body reads the information, the light information that's been placed into the food that you're eating. If you're eating food from California and you're living in Wisconsin, that's a mismatch because your body reads the light environment outdoors and then it reads the light environment in the food and it gets very confused. There's not a lot of carbohydrates available in the winter in this environment, so I choose not to eat them. Stop eating after dark. Now, there's a study released in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, and researchers at Ohio State studied 3 groups of mice. This is really interesting. Each was exposed to a different light cycle for 8 weeks. Listen to this. The only difference is the light. All right, one group had a standard 16 hours of bright light and 8 hours of dark. Second group was just 24 hours of light. They didn't get darkness. And the third got 16 hours of bright light and 8 hours of dim light. Not no light, but dim light, no darkness. All the mice ate the exact same amount of food. Same amount of calories in, same amount of calories out. How do I know same amount out? They ate the same amount of food and did the same amount of exercise. But the mice that were exposed to dim light and bright light gained 50% more weight than mice that had darkness. If you're sleeping with a nightlight on, if you're keeping your lights on after sunset and you're not blocking blue light from your eyes, you can become obese literally by eating the same amount of food as me and exercising the same as me. You in the wrong light environment will gain weight and I will not. That is a big deal. That tells you right away how important light actually is. We are tinkering with our biology when we do that with light and not in a good way. All right, so this is our Faraday cage. You can see right above my head, I'm sitting on the bed, that I pull that flap down when I go to sleep. This cage, this is our bed. I built a 4-poster kind of frame around it. You can make these really easily. There's another way to actually hang it from the ceiling without any cage around it, any frame. But this is a metallized fabric, and it blocks all the microwave radiation from getting into our bed while we sleep at night. We sleep in a primal healing environment at night. That is how I do recommend everybody, if you have any money to spend, to first spend it on the bedroom, because 8 hours of uninterrupted, dark, cool, and electromagnetic free, man-made electromagnetic free sleep can be very, very healing, and it is the only time of the day that most of us get a break from microwave radiation. Literally the only time, as long as you can block it from your sleep environment. So that is what we do. We invested in money to block microwave radiation from our sleep so that while we're sleeping, we're not being exposed to those frequencies. We also do our best to go to bed within 2 hours after sunset. Now, when the sun sets at 4 p.m., are we going to bed at 6 p.m.? No. But there are some nights when we go to bed at 7:30 at night. And yes, you're going to be less productive. That's just the way it is. You can optimize your life to be productive, or you can optimize it for being healthy and connecting with spirit and upgrading your spiritual systems, your health systems, your biology, or you can just be very productive and make more money. And we have chosen to work on spiritual ascension during the winter phase and get more sleep and optimize our biology rather than optimize the money we can make from continuing to work late into the night. When the sun rises, we get outside. We get outside every day at dawn and we see the sunrise. The sunrise is magical. You can probably gain powers from it. I would say that I've heard that from many, many cultures, but getting outside at sunrise, what it does, in 2017, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given for circadian biology. Circadian biology is set in your body when you see the sunrise. When you see the actual sun without glasses, sunglasses, or contacts in your eye, you let the sunrise come into your eye. You don't have to stare directly at it. I stare directly at the sun. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. I don't recommend anyone else do that. Look away from the sun, but allow the sunlight to get into your eyes. Just as long as you're outside, it's getting into your eyes. But if you're blocking it with glasses, sunglasses, or contacts, it's not getting in there. Now, I will say, at dawn, there's no ultraviolet in the sun, which means when I stare at it, I'm not getting ultraviolet in my eyes. I'm getting just the red, infrared, and the other frequencies. I think that's safe for me. I don't know what it is for you. That is your choice, your decision. You need to look up. And if you're staring at the sun at noon, good luck to you, because it's full of ultraviolet, and it probably will damage your eyes. Don't do that. I don't recommend you do what I do. I'm telling you what I do. What I recommend you do, and I do recommend this to everybody, is to get outside at dawn, no glasses, sunglasses, or contacts, and just be outdoors. You don't have to look at the sun. You just be outdoors, take your dog for a walk, do some qigong, do some push-ups, do 200 jumping jacks. Be outside for anywhere from 5 minutes to 4 hours. And if you can, show as much skin to the light as possible. That will help with cold adaptation. And in the summer, that red and infrared from dawn is very healing because there's no ultraviolet in it. So I get outside, even this was 20 degrees below zero here. You can see people dressed in various ways at our retreat 2 years ago. Last year's retreat, or I guess this year, 2020, the temperature was in the 15 and 20, 25 degrees. It was perfect. It was way better than trying to get out here at 20 below with people from Argentina and Australia and California. Oh my gosh, that was intense. And we had to be real careful of frostbite. But this past year in 2020 was much, much easier to be outdoors and teach people about the cold adaptation process. But getting outside and seeing that light sets your circadian biology. That sets you up to be a part of the cycles of light and dark on the earth and to tap into our natural frequencies and energies that are available to you to provide information to your body. I do recommend people get hot in the winter. There's a time and a place to get hot, and that is utilizing sauna. So sauna can be extremely healthy. There's tons of research out there showing that. We're missing these frequencies from the sun, red and infrared. That's what you get from a sauna. Most saunas are just heat, so that's infrared. Some saunas also add some red light, and our body uses that to detox and to create more energy. And I do feel personally that sauna use in the winter makes me healthier and allows me to detox as I'm burning those fat cells that I've got. It's releasing some toxins, and then I get rid of them from my body through the sweat of using a sauna. Lastly, I just want to tell everybody that cold adaptation is a process. You're not going to do it all at once. It takes time. It can be uncomfortable. But I do think bringing winter back into your life by optimizing your sleep, your light and dark cycles, the type of light that you use, and getting cold in the winter makes a huge difference. We do have to push our boundaries a little bit, and I think by pushing your boundaries, you're going to find that you're more comfortable in winter, that you're happier in winter, that you're healthier in winter and in summer. That's the end of kind of the presentation of cold adaptation. Now, stay tuned. We have videos showing you how to cold adapt, and my next video is going to show you the actual sequence of cold adaptation from start to finish. That's going to be another presentation like this showing you what to do, and then there will be videos after it actually showing you the video of us going through the cold adaptation process this winter. Stay tuned. Let me know what questions you all have.